Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest spin on University Bike Share Program, a Best Workplaces for Commuters webinar. I'm Julie Bond, Program Manager for Best Workplaces for Commuters, and I'm going to serve as your host today. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be available for members to view on demand after the webinar. We'll hold a question and answer session after the presentation, so please remember to submit your questions via the Q&A box in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. So type your question in the box and then click the Ask button to submit. The presentations for today's webinar are available to you for download. You can simply click on the icon at the top right of your screen, as shown in this slide. It is the icon with the 3 documents. Today's speakers, we have 3 excellent speakers, and they're going to share their innovative university programs with us today. We have Holly Parker from Yale, Jim Simon from the University of Buffalo, and Joshua Cantor from George Mason University. And you're going to hear from them shortly. First, a little bit about BWC. BWC, Best Workplaces for Commuters, is managed by the National Center for Transit Research. We're located at the University of South Florida here in Tampa. And the center is home to the popular TDM listserv. We have over 2,000 members now, and also home to the Commuter Choice Certificate Program. BWC members receive high-level benefits. They receive recognition for their high-level programs, both nationally and locally. And the Race to Excellence just kicked off, so it's another great opportunity, and we hope that all our members will participate in the race. Membership currently is at over 300 workplaces around the country. Our members are very diverse. They include universities, private sector businesses, government agencies, and also our new designation, Best Site. You can contact me anytime. Here is my information. You can send me an email or give me a call, and always go to bestworkplaces.org to find the most latest information. So before we begin with the presentations, I know you're all very excited to hear from them, we're going to start with a couple interactive poll questions. So get ready to participate and just click on the best answer to the question as they come up on the screen. So our first poll, pretty simple. In which region are you located? So just click on the color or on the circle at the left of the answer, and that's going to record your vote. And we'll show the answers in just a second, so you can see kind of who our audience is and where they're located across the country. Okay, looks like everyone's voting. The poll's coming in. Okay, we're going to show the results. Looks like the highest percentage is from the southeast, followed closely by the northeast, and it looks like we have representation everywhere. We even have someone participating outside the U.S. So thanks for participating in that. Our second poll, which sector do you represent? Are you with a private sector business? Are you with a government agency? That can be federal, state, or local. Are you with a nonprofit? Are you with a university? Or if you don't fit into any of those 4 categories, you can click on the purple box for other. Okay, looks like everything is coming in. I'll give you just a few minutes. Changes of votes there. Okay, let's show the poll. Looks like our highest percentage is university at 47%. Almost half of you are with universities. And then we have 28% are with government agencies, 20% nonprofit, 8% private sector. So good showing across the business sectors. Okay, let's see. Our next poll. We have the next 2 questions are related to bike share. Do you have a bike share program available in your area? So choose the question that best describes your program. And let's see, the first one is a bike share program is currently available in your area. There are plans to implement a program and you have the funding secured. If you don't have the funding secured, your option is there are plans to implement a program but no funding has been established. The next one is there are no plans for bike share in your area, or you don't know. We always give that one. Okay, we're going to go ahead and show the results. Looks like, wow, it just changed. 32% bike share program is currently available in your area. Oh, and now it changed a little bit, so 31 and 31. The next one is there are plans to implement, but no funding has been established. Followed by, let's see, 14% there are plans and funding is secured. And then 11% each are there are no plans and then don't know. Okay, our last poll question. How frequently, if at all, have you used a bike share program? So choose the one that best fits you. If you have a group, you can just answer, what best fits your group. You do not have access to a bike share program. You have access to a bike share program, but you choose not to use it. You have a membership but haven't used it. You're a member and use it only a few times. You're a member and use it a few times per month. You're a member and use it at least several times per week or other. So go ahead and cast your vote for that. Okay, we'll go ahead and show the results of this final poll. Looks like 74% of you do not have access to a bike share program. So that's interesting. 8% other, followed by 5% saying they do have access to a bike share program. Okay, well that was, thank you very much for participating. That was very informative, and I'm sure our speakers were very interested in finding out who the audience is. So we're going to go ahead and begin our first presentation. And we're going to start out with Holly Parker from Yale University. So I'm going to give a quick introduction to Holly before I turn the time over to her. So Holly's been an advocate and manager of sustainable transportation programs for the past 17 years, and her current position as Director of Sustainable Transportation Systems at Yale University focuses on the development, marketing, and implementation of programs that allow and encourage the university community to use human-powered or high-occupancy modes of transportation. Prior to her appointment at Yale, Holly managed Harvard University's Commuter Choice Program for 6 years. So Holly, I'm going to turn the time over to you to talk about your innovative program.
Thanks, Julie. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm especially pleased to be speaking on this topic today because as a sustainable transportation professional, I've been monitoring bike share programs and technologies for probably a dozen years now, and I'm really excited that there's this new concept within bike sharing that doesn't depend on a kiosk-based system. That never really made sense to me on a university campus, especially a smaller university, because of the expense and the infrastructure required. Although, as a caveat, I have to say that Harvard is doing a great job with it, and because they have a regional bike share system, they have a network that they're just one part of. It's working, seems to be working really well there. They're very successful with their program. For Yale, it's going to give you a little backstory about how we came to the technology that we are using now in our current pilot program. Julie, can you remind me how to advance the slides?
Sure, I can do that for you. It's just the blue arrow at the left, bottom left.
Okay.
And I just advanced the first one for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We started with a program called Y-Bike, thinking that the best way to sort of encourage bike culture on our campus was to get staff and faculty on bikes, the people who maybe hadn't been on bikes since they were their childhood, and maybe would remember that biking is a fun way to get around, but also a very expeditious way to get around a university campus, where there are a lot of distances that are just a little bit too far to walk, but not really far enough to drive to and deal with parking at either end. So we just actually started buying a nice brand of commuter bike off the shelf in cooperation with our local bike shop. In this case, it was a Fuji that was nicely equipped with fenders and lights, and we put odometers on them so that we could measure the mileage traveled. And we also put a collapsible basket on the back in addition to a sort of mousetrap rack, so that there was, it was easy for people to carry things. In the case of the picture on the right, we also equipped departments that had a particular need for carrying a lot of cargo with a nice trailer. And this is someone from our Urban Resources initiative. They plant trees all over New Haven, and so they were using these trailers to carry seedlings to their planting locations. And the other image here is of a poster we put up at one of our locations where we actually had a pod of 2 bicycles. These got plastered everywhere in the building so that people could easily see how to use the bikes and how to get more information about them. This is just a web page that we created to explain how it works. We did have a waiver form, so we worked with our risk management folks on, how best to sort of make people aware of their rights and responsibilities using the bikes, and explaining that they would need to submit monthly odometer readings to us. As I think I mentioned in the blurb about this presentation, we have logged over, it says on the website too, logged over 7,000 miles since 2008. So we thought, again, this would get, administrators and people who hadn't been on bikes maybe much in their adult life back on bikes. But we realized that we needed a solution for all of our campus community, including students. We never meant to exclude them, but we weren't really sure how to scale it up at the beginning, and also students had started their own initiative around the same time, or they were starting to create plans for a student bike program. They kind of wanted to work it out themselves, and we helped them in my office kind of envision it and plan it. But they were struggling to maintain it after the second or third year. So as they were planning how to proceed, we had been talking with a company called Zagster about maybe piloting their new technology. So Zagster has this, what we're, I guess, loosely referring to as smart lock technology relative to smart docks, the kiosk-based system. You can see that there's a lock box on the back. That's where the key is for the bike, and there's also a little number plate right here at the base of the handlebars, and I'll explain what that's for in just a moment. Also, take note of the racks themselves and the information that's available on them. This was sort of a custom solution to Yale's sign committee's reluctance to engage with Zagster's branding and aesthetic. Did I say that tactfully enough? So the way the Zagster bikes work is that you text Zagster that number I just showed you on the number plate on the bike, and you text the word start and then that number. You immediately get sent back a text that gives you a code for the lockbox. You enter the code, and the key is on a retractable cord inside the lockbox. For those of you familiar with Zipcar, it's very Zipcar-esque. And you unlock the bike. The bikes all have a U-lock, and you go. And you need to return the bike before midnight the day that you have signed it out, unless there are restrictions on the location. We have a few locations that are inside a parking garage that has a gate that comes down at a certain time, so those bikes have to be returned by the time the gate comes down. And all of that information is delivered to you in the text you receive with your code. just a close-up of the lockbox itself. So the locations we chose were, we wanted a good distribution around campus, representing all of our different sections of campus, but what turned out to be one of the most important factors in our location choices were whether or not my department had jurisdiction over it. So basically we chose parking garages because I work within Yale Support Services, which manages our parking and transit systems. The good thing about that was, well, I'll start with a good thing, which was that the parking garages, in I think every case, are sheltered. On the downside, they're not visible, like a location in the middle of campus or in the middle of a quad or something like that would be. They are also more secure by virtue of being inside a parking garage. And as I had mentioned before, our sign committee was a little uncomfortable with the aesthetic, so we modified the Yale standard bike rack, which was this rack here. We actually wrapped blue handlebar tape around them to make them a little bit more, to make them stand out more, and then we fabricated this signage that would give the information about how to become a member and how to use the bike. So this is Zagster signage. So as long as it was an indoor location, not super visible, we were allowed to install Zagster signage. These are, I think, an 18 by 24-inch sign. It's pretty big, so it also helps you. It focuses your eye towards where the bikes are. It's big and blue. And then we just created a simple Google map to show the locations of the bikes, but added images of both a sort of macro and micro view of where you could find the bikes to help navigate to them. So if we do decide to stay with Zagster as our bike share vendor, we plan to keep improving the visibility of the locations, and to, I guess, whatever vendor we choose to stay with, we will actively solicit feedback about the program in terms of locations and cost. We're still working on what the right pricing is. I'll talk more about that in the next slide, but also the way the system works now, you have to bring the bike back to the same location from which you picked it up, but the next generation of Zagster's technology is going to enable, more easily enable a two-way rental versus a one-way. But we've asked, everywhere we talk about the bike share program, we've asked people to give us feedback. I don't know about your university, but people are pretty generous with their feedback at our university. This is one way that the locations of the bikes within a parking garage can be made more visible. So as I alluded to before, we're not currently charging a usage fee for the bikes, only a membership fee. And in fact, your $20 annual membership is reimbursed if you take the bike safety program that our environmental health and safety staff have created. This has been a really cool, we've been really successful with this because the bike safety class, we've always puzzled over how to get more people into the bike safety class. We see a lot of people running red lights on bikes, riding the wrong way on one-way streets, and basically not representing bicyclists particularly well. We've had record numbers of people taking the bike safety class because it means they get their $20 back. So that was a really easy and inexpensive win-win solution. They also get a free helmet if they show up to the bike safety class. So we don't provide helmets with the bike share bikes. That's sort of just a logistical issue that we couldn't quite work out. And in fact, most bike share programs don't provide a helmet. And the only other cost is the late fee. So a great feature with Zagster is that they have this administrative dashboard, so we can be hourly or daily monitoring the usage of the bikes, the total number of rentals and members. We can parse the data in any number of ways, including by location, so how many reservations were there at each location. We can look at the list of users and see how many times a certain person has taken a bicycle out. And we know that we have one person who reserves the bike every night at 12:01 a.m. so that they're sure that the bike is waiting for them in the morning when they make their commute to work. This is one reason why we're thinking we need to work on the pricing component, so that we're encouraging people to use the bikes, but not necessarily to use them to commute, such that they're tied up for 8 hours a day. We're thinking maybe the first 2 or 3 hours are free, and then beyond that there's an hourly charge or a charge for the rest of the day until midnight, $3 or $5. So I'm very eager to hear the other presenters' perspectives on pricing in particular. In the near future, we hope to, we will actually, I just heard from Zagster yesterday that we will be able to determine the affiliation of each member. A lot of people have asked me, well, how many students are using your bikes relative to staff or faculty, and we are going to require that as information people enter when they establish their membership. And we will be implementing some new technology for locating bikes that Zagster is working on. We really enjoy the fact that we're sort of helping each other out. They got us a great bike share solution in a timely manner, and in return we're giving them feedback about how their technology works. That was so the fact that we launched this program April 22nd, a few weeks before students actually left campus for the summer, was pretty intentional, because we kind of wanted a soft or slow launch to be able to monitor how the program worked, without being fully barraged with with feedback all at once. We've been slowly getting feedback trickling in, and our final future plan is to expand bike sharing to the city of New Haven. I've been working very closely with the Director of Transportation for the city of New Haven and keeping him apprised of the successes of the program, and thinking through how we could maybe start expanding by putting a pod at the train station maybe to start with, and then slowly expanding from there. So I appreciate your attention, and I'll look forward to questions at the end.
Thank you very much, Holly. That was a very interesting presentation. Looks like you've got a very innovative program there. I especially like the handlebar tape on your racks. Very creative. So I just want to remind everyone that please type your questions into the Q&A manager, and then at the end of the 3 presentations, we'll go through and we'll ask and answer questions. So just type those in, and then we'll ask those at the end of the session. Okay, so now we're going to turn the time over to our next presenter. And let's see. Okay, got his presentation up. So we're going to turn the time over to Jim Simon, and he is with the University of Buffalo, and he is the Sustainability Engagement Coordinator. So a little bit about Jim. Jim works to measure UB's environmental footprint and sustainability performance through innovative and participatory applications, as well as maintaining their web presence through their web portal and through social media. Whether it's creating a dashboard to communicate their carbon footprint or leading an innovative student course to gather data, Jim ensures that UB's sustainability efforts are innovative and in practice. And we're very excited to welcome Jim Simon and to hear about UB, University of Buffalo's Bike Share program. Jim, I'll turn the time over to you.
Great, thanks so much. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to give us a brief kind of walk down UB's history with bicycle sharing. But first, a little bit about the University at Buffalo. We are the flagship university in the SUNY system in New York State. We're a research-intensive four-year institution with about 30,000 students. And we've been working here at UB in sustainability for over 30 years. And our focus has ranged from transportation, energy, to a more sustainable landscape. We're an early adopter of the American College and University President's Climate Commitment, and we recently completed the ASHE STARS assessment program, achieving STARS Silver. So our first experience with bicycle sharing at UB began in about 2007 or 2008 with a partnership with what was then known as Buffalo Blue Bicycle. Buffalo Blue Bikes was a low-cost community bike sharing service that had a bike shop that did weekly workshops, and that's pictured here, to actually repair and restore the bicycles that went back into the fleet. Bikes were located around the city of Buffalo and also at the University of Buffalo's South Campus and North Campus. Bikes were checked out by visiting a website to get the lock combination, and as you can imagine, there were some issues there with return users just knowing the lock combination, going to bikes and checking them out with all good intentions, but kind of abusing the system. So we used Buffalo Blue Bikes for several years. We became their largest customer, and we ended up being about 80% of their use. In 2010, Blue Bikes rebranded as Go Bike Buffalo, and it became clear to them that they could no longer bear the cost of the program, and they abruptly canceled the program with no feasible alternative to UB or the other members of in the community. So for about a year, we searched and examined other programs, but we weren't happy with what we found necessarily. So in 2011, sustainability was given a boost at UB with the creation of the Chief Sustainability Officer position here, and that led to the development of principles and a strategy that framed the way that we practice sustainability at the university. We call it our core model. That's curriculum, operations, research, and engagement. And we began thinking about all the work that we do, but also bike share through this lens. So we were asking ourselves questions like, how could we have a bike share system that provided opportunities for research, for teaching, that was simple and intuitive to use or operate, but also engage the entire community. Concurrent with our thinking about bike share, a studio within UB's School of Architecture and Planning had developed a plan for bicycle sharing, a bicycle sharing network in the city of Buffalo, branded as Radial Bicycles. They featured a bicycle system from the company Social Bikes, which I'll talk about in a second. And they also worked with Buffalo Car Share, which I'll also talk about in just a minute. This is the type of engagement that we ultimately would encourage around planning and implementing bicycle sharing at UB, and it kind of set the stage for our next steps. So I mentioned Buffalo Car Share. They are the first and only independent car sharing operator in the city of Buffalo. A core part of their mission is to provide vehicles to those living and working in low-income communities and may not have access to a vehicle. They've succeeded in this mission, and they're one of the only car share organizations in the world to focus on low-income needs. So Buffalo Car Share, they received a grant from NYSERDA and the Department of Transportation in New York State. And bike share has always remained, car share has always remained open to providing other forms of transportation. And so they received this funding from NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and our Department of Transportation to fund a bike sharing program in Buffalo. Our Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus also came on as an initial partner, and we started considering working with car share to provide bike share services at the university. So the company that Buffalo Car Share, now Buffalo Bike Share, as a spinoff, retained was Social Bicycles. Social Bikes was and is a new company that provides bicycles that have a unique GPS tracking system on the bicycle, powered by a solar panel. A mobile and desktop app is designed to show the location and status of bicycles within the system, allowing users to sign out bicycles online or by visiting the bicycle and typing in your code on a keypad. Using Radial Bikes encourages a free-range system, just like we were talking about at Yale, where that's comprised of hub locations within a service area, and bicycles can be locked and returned to any one of these hubs within the service area, not just a specific area. Social bicycles and our use of it is designed for short trips around the campus and the community, not for commutes to and from campus. Given the way college students get their information, mobile accessibility and cutting-edge technology made sense for us at the university. So a little bit over a year ago, we began talking to Social Bicycles and Buffalo Bike Share about working together. A little bit about the Social Bikes proper. Each bike has an internal hub dynamo, so there's no need to worry about grease from a chain. Over the rear seat, as you can see here, there is mounted a computer that includes a locking mechanism, a GPS system, battery, and other key components. On top is that solar panel that helps power the system while it's waiting for a rider. But while the rider's riding the bike, the front tire spins and powers the battery while you're riding. Riding also powers a light that will be, or is on the basket on the front of the bike and 2 red LEDs on the back. So as we move forward with Social Bikes, we had expected to roll out 25 bikes the first week of September 2012, and we'd be testing them probably about this time last year, and that didn't happen. We were then told that we'd get bikes in October, then December, then February of 2013, and we ended up working through delays of about 10 months to have our program roll out this past March. We became frustrated with Social Bicycles, not Buffalo Bike Share, and the deadlines that weren't met. I've never met Mark Zuckerberg, the well-intentioned but pie-in-the-sky founder of Facebook, but sometimes it felt like we were working with a team of Mark Zuckerberg. They were thinking big, but not small enough for us as a client. So we chose to take a risk on working with a company that was less than a year old. We own that. We understand it. If Social Bicycles was 5 years older, I would expect we wouldn't be facing the same kind of issues. At the same time, our campus partner, our parking and transportation office, they wanted and were really set, and rightfully so, on providing a service that was reliable and safe for our students. Our sustainability team, myself included, wanted to push the technology envelope. And we had some difficult conversations, but ultimately decided to give the SOBI team a chance to deliver their product because first, it was important for us to have a program, a bike share program here at UB, and that two, we didn't see another option that was going to be cost effective and in line with our sustainability goals. So this past March and going into April, we launched Bike Share at UB, a beta. So because SOBI is such a new system with unique problems to solve, we decided to launch as a beta, understanding there would be glitches and hiccups, including limited GPS capability and not as much mobile access as we'd hoped to sign up bicycles. We communicated this to users as well, but they still signed up in droves. The cost of the beta is a $10 flat member fee and no hourly rate, and we're likely going to change that this coming fall. This is some rider data from basically the past month. We have 315 registered students, faculty, and staff. 112 of those are active. They've taken 561 trips and traveled almost 800 miles. And what was attractive about the SOBI system was the ability to collect these types of metrics that could be useful in future as a decision-making tool. This is a screenshot of one of the rides that was taken by a user. So logistically, there have been some issues we've had to confront, specifically bikes being returned outside a hub. This takes up valuable staff time in finding the bike and returning it to where it belongs. And this is a screenshot of a successful trip. The bike was checked out from the green hub, as you can see at the top of the map. They probably visited a friend or went to their house in what we call our University Heights, and then they returned it to another hub on campus. Again, they checked it out from a hub and returned it to a hub within the service area of our South Campus. This is a screenshot of an incorrect trip. The bike was checked out from a hub. The green arrow looks like they went for a ride on our bike path surrounding the university, and then they returned it off campus at off-campus housing. And what's useful is we can track these trips, we know who they are, and we can make some decisions there. I see that my friend and colleague Creighton Randall is on the call, and he worked for Buffalo Car Share, and he and his team, Mike Galagano as well, have been very instrumental in preparing these maps and slides and things like that. So just wanted to acknowledge his good work. This is a heat map showing the trip density at our UB North campus of social bike trips. They were mostly on campus, and they hover around our campus core and our residence halls and apartments. The density in kind of the bottom area here, that looks like trips that are being taken likely to the grocery stores within a couple miles of UB. You can see them right here. This is kind of the start and end points of trips for about a month in June, and you can see a lot of the trips end up in kind of that Maple Road corridor where there's a Target and a couple grocery stores. And you can see that trend is the same on our South Campus, where our trips are ending up at the grocery stores or off-campus apartments in the University Heights district. Next steps, we're working to increase bike deployment on campus. We thought that there'd be less use during the summer here at the university, and we were wrong. So we're going to be increasing the number of bikes here. We'll be working with all the partners to ensure that it's working and make sure that we're educating users on the system to reduce staff time that's being used to return bikes to hubs. And we really look forward to applying the data that I just showed you to courses and research and planning and engineering. And then some of our lessons learned. I think it's important that we stay committed to the strategy that we set forth. We work through the issues, and it's worth it because I think the program is really a success here. We are looking forward to hopefully in the near future investing into some bikes, some social bikes ourselves, and that will, I think, catalyze some further action here at the university. And I think the last point is very important as well. We wouldn't have, the program would not have worked, and it wouldn't continue to work if there wasn't trust and respect amongst our UB colleagues and our community partners, specifically, Buffalo Bike Share and that team there. So I'm sorry I didn't advance that slide. So there's that slide and what I just talked about. And just want to thank everyone for hearing our story. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was an excellent presentation, very informative. I think, for anyone who's looking at starting a bike share program, you have a lot of good experience and a lot of lessons learned to tell everyone about. So really excellent presentation. And again, if you have questions, we're getting some questions in. We'll answer those after our third and final presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll turn the time over now to the third presentation, which is going to be given by George Mason University and Josh Cantor. So Josh, I'm going to give a brief overview and then turn the time over to you. So a little about Josh. Josh joined George Mason University in 2005 to head the Parking and Transportation Department. He's responsible for overseeing the parking services contract with Standard Parking, as well as all other areas of parking, including policy development, planning, budget, construction, and special events. As well, Josh directs the university's transportation commuter program, which includes shuttle operations, van pooling, carpooling, bicycling, walking, metro, the Q bus, and other means of alternative transportation. Along with all that, he currently serves as president for the Parking Association of the Virginias, is on the Educational Development and State and Regional Association Committees of the International Parking Institute, and is on the Customer Advisory Board for T2 Systems. Josh is a very busy person, so we thank him for providing this presentation on his bike share program today. So, Josh, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, everyone. My story will be pretty similar in some respects to Yale and UB. I've already learned a few things from just listening to them. Just to give you a little background about George Mason, we are located in Northern Virginia with 33,000 students, which makes us the largest four-year institution in the Commonwealth of Virginia, with 6,200 students living on campus and 6,000 employees. We actually have four campuses in Northern Virginia, Fairfax being the largest, but we have 4 campuses in 4 different counties, which so makes some of our transportation challenges fun. A little about George Mason. Like a lot of schools that have grown very rapidly, as we were promoting a lot of our transportation programs, bicycling rose to the forefront of the things that we wanted to work on, and we really wanted to develop a bike culture that didn't often exist across the university. So over the last couple of years, we've added bike lanes, added bike racks. We have, I think, about 1,200 bike racks now on campus. We've added bike shelters, which have been very popular. We have about 15 or 16 bike shelters. So about 25% of our bike parking is under bike shelters. And our success also, we've also worked with our neighbors, with the city of Fairfax and Fairfax County, to connect bike trails and pathways to the nearby metro station, which is about 4 miles away. So we realized early on that it wasn't enough for us to do stuff on campus, but we really needed to engage our regional partners in making the region bike-friendly as well. And then in 2011, recognized as a bicycle-friendly university by the League of American Bicyclists. As we went through kind of our bike-friendly university application, and by then we'd already been thinking and talking about bike share programs here in the D.C. area. Bike share has gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years because of Capital Bike Share, which has been immensely popular. We have been in our Arlington campus has been in their expansion plans for many years, and actually as of last April, we were able to finally get a station at our Arlington campus. So we were quite pleased that we were finally being connected part of that network in the Arlington, Washington, D.C. area. However, we also knew that Capital Bike Share had no imminent plans to expand westward towards Fairfax. Their plans showed them being 10 to 12 miles away by 2015, meaning it could be by the end of the decade before they got out to Fairfax. So we decided we needed to pursue our own bike share program. And we started looking at a few alternatives, looking at what some other schools do. One thing that became pretty clear, and Holly mentioned this at Yale, that we really didn't want to have dedicated infrastructure like Capital Bike Share. It's one thing when our campus in Arlington, it's hopefully not going anywhere. Our campus in Fairfax, we've spent $2 billion on construction in the last 5 to 6 years, so things change pretty rapidly. So in 2012, our transportation department and our Office of Sustainability applied for an internal, what's called a Patriot Green Fund grant. Essentially, the university and the Office of Sustainability has set aside $100,000 per year towards sustainable projects, and we were one of the first recipients, and we received a grant of $36,000 towards a bike share program, with the transportation department being responsible for the remainder of any installation and ongoing cost. So in 2012, we contracted with a company named ViaCycle as our bike share provider. ViaCycle started at Georgia Tech, actually as a graduate research project, became a company, started a bike share program at Georgia Tech, and then we chose them as our provider. So when we in October of 2012, we introduced our Patriot Bike Share program with ViaCycle. We started off with 20 bikes. We originally started off with 4 stations. The stations marked through GPS plotting and marked by signage. So similar to what UB and Yale have. We expanded to 7 stations, including having access to our student recreation centers and our president's office, and similar to the other programs that you had to check, if you checked a bike out, you had to return it to one of the existing stations to be off the clock. You know, we were able to use existing bike racks, so not having to have any special bike racks, I think, was a real plus in the program that we chose. And similar to what you've seen at UB and Yale, the locking mechanisms were built into the bike. And again, we put our bikes in our popular areas around campus and near transit bus stops. So the idea was that people could either park or, you know, get off at a bus stop and then take one of the bikes to another part of campus. And then ViaCycle has an employee that comes in on a weekly basis and kind of rebalances the bikes to kind of set it back, so we have a somewhat of even distribution around campus. Out of our 20 bikes, it was we often found 15 bikes at the 24-hour Starbucks, so we had to kind of take the bikes back so other people around campus had access to it. Some of the challenges that we had, our campus isn't it's a populous campus. It's not a very large geographic campus. So some of the issues we had with only having the bikes original in their 4 destinations was that by the time someone often got to one of the bike share stations, they had already walked halfway to their destination, so they weren't as likely to use the bike. And while people understood about bike share and they were excited about bike share, especially people that have used Capital Bike Share in the DC, Arlington area, there was still an uncertainty about exactly what what bike sharing was. This is an example of one of our bike sharing stations. So similar to the other programs, we had a cluster of bikes and marked by signage. We actually got some better signage recently. To use the bikes, pretty similar to the other programs as well. You had you basically walked up to a bike after you had registered, and you could either text a bike, call the phone number, or use the mobile app to unlock the bike. As I told people, if I could do it, pretty much anyone could do it. It was just a matter of basically putting the bike number in and a PIN number that you created when you set up your account. Our membership rates that we started off with, we set up a monthly subscription rate of $6 per month, and you could cut that off at any point. We also set up a 12-hour membership. We had early on, we had requests from our hotel and conference center on campus about how non-university personnel could take advantage of the bike share program. So we set up a $3 membership where outsiders could set up. And then we allowed up to 2 hours of use at no charge. So once you were a member and you checked out a bike, you could take it for 2 hours, meaning that you could take it easily off to local off-campus destinations as well as across campus. And here's our rate structure. So again, the idea of the bike share program and as we explained what bike sharing is, similar to Zipcar in car sharing, is that it was meant to be for very short-term use. So we again allowed for 2 hours free use, which was different than what a lot of people with Capital Bike Share were used to. They only have 30 minutes of free use. We allowed for 2 hours of free use so you could take short trips. But then, as you can see, then rates were charged after that. Again, with the idea being that intending for people to only use it for a short periods of time. Mason pays annual support fees for the software and maintenance of the bike share program. And one thing that we were able to do in setting up the contract was the membership revenue was credited towards our fees. So the $6 a month that people pay actually gets credited towards our overall costs. So actually, if we got enough members, we would have a break-even point. As a promotion, we had the first 100 people to sign up actually received a free month of usage. And the people that we targeted, one included people that didn't have bikes on campus, but we also realized that there was a market to target towards out-of-state students, and informing them that there was no need often for them to bring a bike all the way from New Jersey or wherever they were coming from, that we had bikes on campus that they could use. Pretty soon after the program started in October of 2012, we started talking to the city of Fairfax, who had expressed some interest in how we could expand the bike share program into the city, which was less than a mile from the part of campus. And again, it supports the idea of using it for short trips on and off campus. Here's just a little flyer that we had made up. So again, trying to come up with a catchy campaign. We came up with Text, Unlock, Go. A pretty simple concept, getting people exposed to what Patriot Bike Share is. Here's a little picture of our bikes, similar to the other bikes you've seen. Where you see the number 3 there on the rear wheel, that black case is where the computer is. That's where it's self-contained and where the locking device is, and then the lock is on the back. So when one walks up and checks and unlocks the bike, you just unlock the lock, and then you can store it there on the back of the bicycle. So pretty easy to use. I wasn't able to, unfortunately, I had some links to some videos that we did. We had done some promotional videos to show people what it was. I don't believe the Office Live allows me to open it up, but when you guys review these slides later on, you can kind of see our video presentations that we did as part of our marketing campaign. So, the challenges that we faced, we started off in October, so, we had about a month of okay weather before kind of winter came. And then it wasn't decent weather until probably March, so we only had late March, April, and then by May people were going home. So we didn't have we haven't really had a full year of usage given some of the breaks in the semesters. Unfortunately for us, since Julie had asked us to do this presentation just a few weeks ago, we unfortunately received notice from ViaCycle that they were going out of business. So just in the last week or so, we've had to suspend our bike share program. We're in the midst of trying to figure out what to do with the bikes that we have. We do own them. We're working on a process where people can be able to, at least in the interim, be able to check out the bikes and perhaps use them for up to a day at a time. But our intent is to kind of regroup and solicit for a new, and do an RFP for a new bike sharing business. So, as far as lessons learned for us, I think certainly looking at bikes and where we start off having them, realizing again that one of the obstacles to people using them was that the bikes simply weren't where they were at, and other people aren't willing to walk halfway to their destination to get to a bike. And our hope is that we're going to regroup and look at doing a combined program with the city of Fairfax, similar to what Holly had talked about, in working with their city. So any questions you have, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. That was another very informative presentation, and I'm sure you'll figure out something innovative to do, with the system with ViaCycle, and it was really great to see your whole thought process through and how your program started. So now we're going to move into the fun part of the session, the Q&A. We have quite a few questions here for all of you, and the slide again shows you how you can ask a question. So you can just go into the Q&A box and type your question in. So we're going to go ahead and start with the questions. So for all of you, we had several questions come in, of course, regarding cost. So maybe we'll start with Holly and go Holly to Jim and Josh. And if you can just go over just quickly any startup costs, maintenance fees, and if you allow sponsorship dollars, that would be great. So Holly, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, where is the question?
It's about cost. So there's several questions regarding cost, like what were your startup costs? Do you have ongoing maintenance costs? Do you have any extra fees? And do you allow sponsorship dollars? Pretty much sums that up. I know it's a lot, but just if you want to summarize your cost of the program.
Sure. There were fees associated with each location. So we have 10 locations on campus with 5 bikes each. So we also paid for the installation of racks. In the case of Zagster, they have a specific rack they like to spec for their program because it's very space efficient. However, due to the aesthetics issue I referred to before, we weren't able to use their racks in all of our locations, so that actually saved us some money. And then we pay a monthly fee. In our case with Zagster, we don't own the bikes, and I really liked that option because I don't want to be a fleet manager, and I don't want to deal with. I like the fact that the bikes will be refreshed. The whole fleet will be refreshed every 2 years. So we pay a monthly fee per bike, which is $110 per bike, and that includes the web hosting, the customer service, the membership, reimbursements to people who take the bike safety class, maintenance of the bicycles, the technology and development and all of that. So we felt like that was a really good solution for us. And I should say that we got some funding from a Yale alum who wanted to kind of get the wheels rolling, as it were, on a bike program by providing some funds over the first 5 years of the program.
Okay, great.
Sorry. So you also asked about startup fees and.
Do you allow sponsorship dollars?
Sponsorship. Well,
yeah.
I mean, so the donor, the Yale alum who donated funds, we will likely name the program for him eventually. So I think that covers that question. There wouldn't be any additional sponsorship. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer all the questions?
Yes, that's great. Okay, Jim?
So Buffalo Bike Share got a grant for a little over $100,000 to purchase 75 bicycles, and that I think we estimate the cost to be about $1,000 for the program per bike. So the rest of that has gone to paying a staff member to maintain the bicycle, and that's who does our maintenance on the bicycles. We pay Buffalo Bike Share a fee for the duration of our program, so from the start until I think going into the fall, and then we do not have any sponsors, and we don't foresee that happening as a program-wide thing. We could imagine perhaps certain panels on the bicycles having some ads, things like that in the future, but nothing today. We're concentrating on making sure the program's working.
Okay, great. And Josh?
Okay, we had, for our 20 bikes, we had an original startup cost of around $36,000, which I mentioned for us. We were able to be funded by an internal sustainability grant. As I look at the cost and looked at the cost of other programs, and especially looking back, I think certainly had we not had that funding, we probably might have been a little bit more cost conscious than we had. And then beyond the initial purchase and installation of the 20 bikes, we pay ongoing support cost of around $6,000 a quarter. But again, the way our contract was set up was the membership fees got credited towards that. I forget the exact number. I think it might have been like around 300 members. Theoretically, though, if we had enough members sign up, we would basically be break even. But if nobody signed up, we were prepared to spend up to $6,000 a quarter. So it was kind of in our interest to have more members, not only for building the program but financially as well. And then we also had a cost sharing clause in the program. So if we got to the point where we were breaking even for every member beyond that, us and Via Cycle had a revenue sharing clause in that.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks for those answers. Let's see, we'll move along. We have one question for Holly. What sort of participation rate are you enjoying, and have you had issues with excess demand?
We haven't had any issues. I'm sorry. We have had issues with demand. At one location, I got feedback that the bikes weren't available every day. That some morning, one particular person, I referred to him or her earlier, that they were getting to the rack in the morning and wanting to commute with a bike, find a bike there. So that person found a solution of serving in at 12:01 a.m. or morning. Other than that, I showed that has our statistics, has all of our usage data, and as the went on, and I think I've learned about the program word, our use. Well, I can say first around July 1st, we hit the 1,000 rentals, and when I was at a press on the 19th, had 100 rentals. So the first July we had 500 rentals. So I think I was just talking to Zagster yesterday about coming up with some membership goals. So that's something we're going to set targets for. But I don't have much to benchmark against. I'm delighted now to have my co-presenters here as contacts, because we can't really compare against the kiosk-based bike share system. So I will be checking in with you guys frequently, I think, to compare and contrast.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see. Then the next question is Buffalo Blue Bikes, the company you use to return bikes with a bike pull trailer. That would be for Jim.
That was the company that used the trailer, and it was famously constructed out of many found and purchased materials. And so, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, another question. I guess this can be for any of you. Having analyzed all types of bike share companies, would you recommend no shelter bike programs for cities with medium density downtown? Does anyone want to take a stab at that one?
Can you repeat that again?
Having analyzed all types of bike share programs, would you recommend no shelter bike programs for cities with medium density downtown?
I believe so. You know, as we were going forward and working with the city of Fairfax, which is not too far from our Fairfax campus, you know, they were in the process of looking at how transportation could support their business development, and you know, they were in the process of engaging local businesses that don't necessarily have shelters, you know, but that could have, you know, a bike rack here or there in front of the business and come up with these kind of hubs. You know, for our program, some of our locations had shelters, but some of the locations, our most popular location, we didn't have a shelter, so I don't think that's an obstacle. I mean, obviously, I think looking at the weather, you know, Buffalo and Yale perhaps have more, you know, need to consider snow and inclement weather more than we do in Virginia. But I don't think shelters are required. But I think it's just like a university. I think bike sharers can really take off in those types of downtown areas and things of that nature, where you're trying just to reduce trips in a short area.
I agree, and at Yale we realized we had to be flexible about the locations, because you have to balance the need. It's nice operationally if the locations can be sheltered because of inclement weather, but you can also address that by putting the bikes away for the winter. That's something we didn't talk about, but often comes up as a important operational question. And we think that because most of our locations are indoors, we could probably keep going through the winter, but that will remain to be. But I think the biggest takeaway is you definitely have to be flexible about the locations, because they have to combine visibility and being just in the right location to be convenient with also having weather protection. I think if possible, it's certainly optimal.
Okay, great. And that's another question we have here for all three of you. You all have snow in your areas. Do you put your bikes in storage for the winter, or is that in the plan?
At George Mason, we don't have quite as much snow as they do in Connecticut and New York. So we actually kept our bikes out. And we actually had some hardy souls that were using them through December and January and February. So for us, we didn't. I think we talked about it once during a flood situation about taking the bikes offline and moving them, but not for snow.
Okay, great. Holly or Jim, are you do any plans to put those away?
Yeah, we're not sure yet. I guess we haven't really. You know, the weather in our past several winters has been so variable that this past winter it was fairly mild, and we had a lot of people riding bikes through the winter. I think we might play it by ear.
Okay, great.
And this will be the first winter where we'd have to deal with it, so I think we'll take it as it comes, just like Yale.
Okay, great. It'll be interesting to hear about what happens after the winter, follow-up webinar. Okay, another question. What about risk liability? How did you handle that? Did you have concerns when you were first implementing the program, and what happens with the risk and liability if something happens with a bike or someone's injured?
I can take that one. It's tough because the bikes are fairly expensive, and with the additional technology that they have on them, it's sort of a expensive prospect to replace the bike. We were concerned about theft, and thankfully to date we've had no theft. But it's technically, just as with Zipcar, the member, when they sign their membership agreement, is agreeing to replace the bike if it's stolen while it's on their reservation. And we're not sure how we're going to handle that when and if it does happen, but that is technically what the membership agreement is asking people to commit to. So thankfully we haven't had to cross that bridge yet, but if the bike is stolen while it's not on an active reservation, the university has agreed to cover half the cost to replace the bike. But in terms of risk to the user, the membership agreement covers that in terms of what specifically your rights and what your responsibilities are as a user. And again, we were really happy to tie in with our bike safety class, because we think ultimately someone who's well informed of the rules of the road and is a vigilant rider is so much safer on the street.
Yeah, for us at George Mason, the liability was definitely one of the factors when we started exploring what different bike share programs were out there. And so the prospect of having a program that we owned and the bikes being university bikes versus having a third party operated, I think was definitely a deciding factor in us wanting to outsource our bike share program. We looked at, if we took it in-house, what would the liability costs be? I mean, not to say that we still couldn't be sued if something happened while somebody was using, one of the third-party bikes, but certainly having the liability be with the company, primarily with the company, not us, was, I think, it's definitely a factor in the way we chose.
We had a very similar arrangement with Buffalo Bike Share, where the agreement the user agreement is with the user and Buffalo Bike Share, not the university. So, we're not absolved of responsibility. It's between the user and a third party.
Okay, great. Thank you for those answers. Do any of you have any experience with feasibility studies? Did you conduct a feasibility study, and would you have those to share with us?
At Yale we didn't, but we borrowed a feasibility study that Providence conducted, the city of Providence, because their city is a similar size to New Haven. So originally we had hoped that we could launch a whole citywide bike share, and when we didn't get the funding through congestion mitigation air quality, the federal funding, Yale decided to go forth and start its own bike share that would hopefully expand to the city. We decided to go the other way around. So we did look at Providence's feasibility study, just in terms of, what kind of density of bikes we would need, and some of the wisdom that came out of their feasibility study was useful.
I think what's neat about our program with working with Buffalo Bike Share is that it's really a feasibility study in action. So they receive funding to to get a program off the ground, and so it's been a lot of really intensive study and testing and seeing what works in our city, our region, and I know that the folks from Buffalo Bike Share have been working with other mid-sized cities in New York State and regionally to kind of talk about how that model could be expanded. So I know that Buffalo Bike Share is keen on conducting those types of feasibility studies.
Yeah, George Mason, I don't recall us doing a feasibility study specifically on bike sharing, but we had done a lot of survey and focus groups regarding how to provide bicycle access as part of a larger transportation master plan that we had done in 2009, 2010. And with a growing population of residential students and students from out of state, the market for and the demand for having a bike sharing program also grew. And for us, I think the popularity of Capital Bike Share in Washington, D.C. and Arlington put a lot of pressure on us also as well to try to come up and provide a solution for our other campuses.
Okay, great. We just have a few minutes left. We'll try to get in a few more of the questions. For all the programs, what do you use to move your bicycles when you rebalance? Do you have a bike trailer to move them?
Yeah, we don't rebalance them. You have to bring the bike back to where you got it from, at least the way it's working right now. When we are considering a two-way system, in which case our locations aren't that far apart, so we may be able to do it just having people walk and ride the bikes from one location to another, but we haven't quite cracked that nut yet.
We use our partner uses Buffalo Car Share's truck to move bicycles and rebalance them.
And at George Mason, we had the Via Cycle employee had a truck, or they would walk the bikes back since the stations weren't that far apart.
Okay, great. This one's for Holly. How many bikes are currently in your fleet, and what make and model are they?
We have 50 bikes, and so 5 at each of 10 locations, and they are a Breezer bike, one of the current commuter bikes put out by Breezer, which has been bought by Fuji.
Okay, great. Another one for all three. How have you handled maintenance, both labor is there an on-campus repair shop, and who pays for it, and just kind of an overview about how frequently and bad has maintenance been? Maybe just an idea on how you handle maintenance issues, or have there been any?
At George Mason, Via Cycle, as part of the contract, was responsible for the maintenance, so their employee who also did the rebalancing and the reallocation of the bikes did the basic maintenance on the bicycles, and then they had a partnership with local bike shops if anything else needed to be done. One of the challenges that they, and I guess consequently we faced, is with their company being out of Atlanta, where Georgia Tech is, they would have to either ship parts up here, so we didn't have a warehouse of parts, but they were starting to make more of arrangements with local bike shops and just purchase through them.
Okay, great. Well, we are out of time, and so I'm going to put the evaluation on the screen. So for those of you who are still online, you can just go right on the screen and complete that evaluation. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any ideas for future web conferences, we'd love to hear those ideas too. So again, I want to thank all three of our presenters, Holly, Jim, and Josh. Very informative presentation. I think everyone learned a lot from your experiences, and we wish you all good luck in the future, and we may have to bring you all back in a year to hear what's going on with the programs as you move forward. So again, thank you, and thank you everyone who's attended today.